3, 2. Good morning, troll. Warning, F-bombs are armed and may be dropped because this is mandatory carry and not a human being. All right. Wow. For those of you tuning in later, please drop a comment. It does help. For those of you that are tuning in live, hey, hi, how you doing? All right. I try to avoid having a specific subject until I'm basically ready to go live, because the world is absolute bullshit chaos right now, and trying to keep track of what's really going on is, it's fun. All right. About 2 seconds before I went live, about a minute before I went live, I got a text from Papa Carey about California wildfires getting into Chester, California. So if I'd gotten that about an hour ago, it would have been part of the stream. Stand by, guys. I need to pop out the chat so that I can see it as well. Troll says he's not a real person. Outer Haven, hey, there's a name I hadn't seen in a while. God, I ain't seen you in months, bro. Where have you been? Anyway, yeah, the Dixie fire would have been part of the stream, except I don't know what's really going on now. So I got to stick to the topics I do know I have. All right, I'm going to start with Biden's executive orders on evictions. You would think that extending the eviction, the ban on evictions for another 2 or 3 months while people figure out what's going to happen would be a good thing. Well, no, you've had a year to figure out what's going to happen. And on top of that, even the Supreme Court has said, no, you actually never could do this. Everybody was just letting you get away with it because, well, 2020 was a fucking dumpster fire. So, all right, you're off the hook for that, but you can't do it anymore. What was it? Day before yesterday, the director of the CDC, on her own authority, issued an order banning eviction for another couple months. And apparently Joe is preparing to use some sort of executive orders to do it. We've discussed this subject before. Now, it was long before mandatory carry was a thing. And in fact, it was, I think I was still in high school at the time, but this has been discussed already. Society said no. It was Law and Order. In one of the episodes of Law and Order, there was a real and legitimate threat to good order and discipline in society. Any order and discipline in society, for that matter. The Russian mob had targeted Jack in particular, and he was just the ADA at this point. They were going to shut him up, and if they couldn't shut him up, they were going to kill him. That's it. They didn't care. They wanted an end to it. They put a bomb in the police precinct just as a warning. That's when Jack goes fucking batshit, and he says, you know what? Just grab them all. Just grab them all. We'll go through it. And the courts sit there and go through these arrest warrants and say, nope, this one's not legal. Nope, this one's not legal. Nope, this one's not legal. You got to turn them all loose. This was back in the 90s. Society had already said, no, you cannot ignore the law, you cannot ignore the courts. And now, here's Joe Biden on his own, telling the Supreme Court, of all things, the one court that can actually turn to the president and say, no, you're actually wrong, and this is it. Go away now. And told them they're wrong. Nope, I'm president of the United States. I can do what I want. Newsflash. This is not a monarchy. This is not even an elected dictatorship. That's a thing. In some countries, the people vote for who they want to be the dictator. That guy's in charge, and that's it. He's the end of the discussion from there. What's this mean for gun owners? The Supreme Court has already ruled that the right to possess a firearm for your self-defense is actually a right. It's not a privilege. It's not an enforced right. It's an actual right. And no, the city of DC, you cannot tell the people that they cannot defend their own lives. You cannot set these draconian requirements. They have a right, and that's it. And Joe Biden has already told us he does not care. Now, what do you think that means for those of us left or right? You should be very worried here about literally everything else. Not just gun owners. He will absolutely ignore DC versus, or Heller versus DC, excuse me. But it gets worse. Oh, it gets so much worse. He's already said he wants to ban firearms that can hold 20, 30, 120 rounds. Like there's no such thing as a gun that can hold 120 rounds. Or if it exists, I've never seen it. There are drum mags, and the biggest I've ever heard of is, well, there's the Beta mag, but that's a weirdo. 100-round drum mags. I've seen them before. That's the biggest I've ever heard of. It's effectively a ban on all detachable magazine-fed weapons. I get so tired of hearing myself say this, so you guys must be absolutely ready to pull your brains out through your ears. You know what I mean? It gets worse. Yeah, it does. There are very well-meaning people on the left who have actually heard these words and said, no, he's going to ban all of the semi-autos. No, it's not just the semi-autos. Bare minimum. The Lee Enfield is a bolt-action rifle that was designed from the beginning to be fed by a detachable magazine. Now, the magazine for the Lee Enfield had a chain on it, so the magazine wouldn't go anywhere because they intended for you to detach it only for cleaning purposes. All right, sure. It's a detachable mag, and there's absolutely no reason on earth you can't just build a bigger mag. There is an upper limit. For those of you that have used Surefires, you know it's not going to work in real life. But there are other options out there. And getting over 10 rounds, fixed bayonets is little Glock 27 is over 10 rounds. That's what the concealment holster, or the concealment mag. And now he wants to ban even those because it is detachable and it could hold a 16-round mag. I know because I put my mag in her gun just to prove that, yes, actually this does work. It was uncomfortable, but it worked. He won't even care that the Supreme Court said, no, no, you can't do this. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, the California court, said, actually, no, you can't do that. But he doesn't care. As much as I think Joe's being abused for his age, and I'm not the first to say it, or abused by his age, he's not so completely incompetent that he doesn't know what he thought before he got into office. Remember, this is the guy that put the 94, I guess, assault weapons ban before Congress. I know this because mandatory carry started as a result of the 2014 assault weapons ban debate. I'm not even joking, people. It was here on YouTube under my real name. Another channel, I don't even know if it exists anymore, where the owner of the channel was literally making fun of somebody that was trying to put the ban before Congress, who couldn't define what was it, barrel shroud. That was the term. It's not even barrel shroud, you stupid bitch, but okay, let's move on. She said, and you'll all remember this, the shoulder thing that goes up. That was on Tucker's channel back when he was still on, was it CNN? I think it was CNN. He doesn't care about what the court said. It's going to get worse. His next step will be to find something else where the people have already spoken. They have said no. Courts have turned around and said, yeah, no, you can't do that. Let's take a subject that's a little bit nearer and dearer to my heart than it should be, because I don't like it, but oh well. Legalize pot. All right. It's time for Carrie to be a little bit more honest about some things in this world. I'm allergic to pot. This building around me was bought with a collective investment, of which I am one, on a indoor pot grow operation. Now, it's a legal operation. Oh my God, the taxes on this operation. Like, if it weren't for the fact that the guy who put it together has access to some ridiculously deep pockets, it had been done in the first month. Those people expect their money back. When Joe decides that pot is the big problem, he's going to order it shut down. And he's not going to care if the courts have already said, you know what? No, we don't like this either. It does violate, up to and including the Supreme Court saying this actually does violate the Constitution. You can't do it. He's going to do it anyways. I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. This should scare the shit out of you. All right. I got to catch up with the chat real quick. So sorry, guys. I got to catch up a lot, apparently. Well, welcome back, Haven. Oh, you're in Britain. Oh, well, you should appreciate a elected leader doing whatever the hell they want and the dangers that that presents. Troll asks, sort of makes you wonder who's actually in charge. See, he's doing this to bait me into saying Iran. You don't need to bait me into saying Iran. I will say it anyway. Um, Outer, I think we are in step to towing into communism or running full pelt. I don't even think communism is the end of it. I think that we're going to literally become oh, a concentration camp. You will breed when we say, you will eat when we say, you will work when and how we say, and we are the elites. We make the rules. Um, and I've been very worried about this since at least 2016, when the men running around saying, I hope we're still friends after the election, even if we're in different camps. For those of you that think, oh, this is America, that can never happen. It has happened. All right. The 1940s to the Japanese, we did that. All right. The United States put American citizens who had been born here and whose parents had been born here into camps. I don't know if there was forced labor or not. For 5 years, 4 or 5 years. If you don't believe me, Inrange TV did a great Vignet, I can't say the word, on one of these camps. Carl turned around and did another one at a different camp that had been turned into a prisoner of war camp. So go check that one out too, if you want to see what the possible future looks like. So yeah, you think going into communism is bad? At least communism, you're allowed to go to your shitty ass apartment, listen to your shitty ass radio that was made in the middle of the month, and die there. Troll and me are on the same page about how this story is going to end. Well, at least for the two of us individually. Um, now, I've said it before. When they came for me, they found me crushed to death under a pile of hot brass. That's a thing. You can turn any uh, uh, self-loading firearm, whatever type it is, into a de facto machine gun if you heat up the barrel enough. It's a lot of heat, but it's called cook-off. And once it starts, it's really hard to stop. Uh, British officers don't duck. Okay, well, I'm sure you can tell that to a few British infantry officers. Um, Outer, email me about reform as it applies to you potentially individually. Um, Thank you, Troll. That was very generous of you. Reading about how they used to kill captains to demoralize our troops. Yeah. Outer is talking now about decimation. I was reading about that. British officers don't duck. That they used to kill captains to demoralize our troops, and that never works. It demoralizes the shit out of troops. And oh yeah, by the way, all it does is demoralize them and make them not want to fight. The Romans got that one wrong. Big wrong. Rights can neither be given nor taken. Um, okay, Troll brought up a great point. You can defend yourself, but you can only penalize you for it. Um, Believe it or not, in the UK, you don't have a right to self-defense. That's actually a thing, but it's a thing. If somebody tries to kill you, you cannot kill them right back. Some crazy ass theory about their due process rights or whatever. I don't care. No. When a lion is chasing a gazelle, the gazelle is going to try to stab the shit out of that lion if it gets close enough. I can't read that one out loud, troll, but I have an hour-long video talking about just that. Um, okay, I'm caught up. Hey, Luke. Sorry, I'm still catching up. And oh, hello, Leo. I wear this shirt because it is blue, and it is a American Patriots shirt. And it's too hot for the sweatshirt. I do actually have this as a hooded sweatshirt, and I have the Revolutionary War version, and it's just too hot, and I don't have the t-shirt for the Revolution yet. So, Troll, they actually do have a Confederate version, but no, at the end of the day, I am still an American patriot, and I'm sticking to my story. Ironically enough, on the rare occasion when I have managed to do Civil War reenacting, I fight for the Confederates. There was a whole lot more to that story than just one side's a good guy and one side's a bad guy. Okay. The next one is by request. All right. Sit down, take your belt off, put your belt around your chair, put it on that way, because you're going to need it here in a second. The subject is mandatory vaccinations. My governor has not come out and said we're going to make vaccinations mandatory. But yeah, he's trying to get us there. Let me put this very bluntly. We all know the vaccination that he wants to make mandatory. And there's only one vaccine that works. It's the one I got back in June of last year. You know the one I'm talking about? You get it, you get sick, you get over it, and you get back onto your life. Now, I know my medical history. I had meningitis as an infant. Okay? If I survived, the doctor said, told my parents, if he survives, he will be a vegetable. Leo, be sure to go back to the bathtub and tell him I always said that. I'm walking, I'm talking, I dressed myself, and I even showered this morning. And as you can see, I didn't shave. I guess I'm not really a vegetable, am I? But I do hope that Adam is kind enough to email me the meme he makes about it. Either way, um, I beat meningitis at 6 months old. What do you think I'm afraid of? I'll tell you what I'm actually afraid of. As far as diseases go, I am deeply respectful of HIV. I respect HIV. This one's real. That one is real. And I remember when I was a kid and it was the new thing, and you were going to die. That's it. You were going to die. As of 3 years ago, I lost my fear of HIV. Yes, I'm still respectful of it. I get it. It's real. But when PrEP came along, I lost the fear. That's it. Yeah, it's real and it'll make your life hell, but it will not kill you just because you got it. I'm not even afraid of HIV anymore. Do you really think I'm afraid of COVID? Plug on the play. The first couple of months, I actually was afraid. They were hyping this as you will die and that's it. And then February, March, April, May. I guess it was late April or early May when I saw a story about the first known survivor of COVID. So, okay, hold up. If anybody can survive this thing, then I can survive this thing. So I went out and I got it. And you know what? Yeah, I felt like crap for a couple weeks, a couple days really. I just didn't feel good for a couple weeks. Felt like crap for a couple days. And then I got over it. While I was getting over it, I heard about something called plasma transfusion from COVID. Oh, wow. This is incredible. This changes everything. I even saw the interview with the apparently first person to get one. And he's talking, he's happy, he's relieved. I have a real good idea how he was feeling because I've been there, done that myself. He was still alive. I made my first appointment that day to go donate. I donate down in Las Vegas because I don't really want my neighbors knowing that I do that because plasma donation is closely associated with drug addicts, and I don't really want my neighbors thinking I'm a drug addict. And you'd be surprised at things people say in that place. But moving on, I was donating for a year. The only real vaccine, you get it and you get over it and you survive it. If you need to get plasma or one of the drugs that have been shown to help with the recovery process, that's fine. I get it. Right? A year ago, I would have told you that it's the patriotic or even just human duty of anybody who can donate plasma for that purpose to do so as much as they can. And I was doing a lot, right? About half as much as I really could. You try taking a whole day off to drive 200, 300 miles and judge me. Just saying. But yeah, I donated a lot of plasma this year. Right now, if you're watching this or listening to it later, I would encourage you to really think about it. Because if you don't get the poke, you will be declared Untermensch by the end of this year. You will be declared subhuman by the end of this year. And I know because that's exactly what happened to me. The day that that bullshit came down is, well, the day after, I called and canceled my next appointment. I gave them an excuse about work and taking time off work and da da da. And I could actually hear it on in the guy's voice. No, this is about the new mask mandates. He tried to talk me out of it. No, I'm sorry, I really can't. He knew. He knew. I'm okay with that. You want to go get the poke? Go get the poke. Don't let me stop you. Um, Making this mandatory is not going to solve anything. It's going to make the problem worse. Okay, Troll says, this is the hill he's willing to die on. Congratulations, they found it. This is not the hill I'm willing to die on. I'm not dying on this hill. The next hill. You really want to take this hill, good for you. When you get to the top, you're going to find that I've already retreated to the next hill that's much higher. And you just walked into a trap. Joel got the virus, he got better. He redacted a comment that I can see in the background. Oh, you misspelled that word. But that's okay. Excuse me, guys. All right. No mandatory vaccines of this sort. First of all, it's still considered experimental. Guys, what are you thinking? So was the anthrax vaccine. How did that turn out? 1 out of every 3 people who got the anthrax vaccine back in the early 90s ended up permanently disabled or dead. It gets worse. It hasn't been fixed. I'm lucky I only got the first dose. And the big thing is you got to get either all 3 or none. If you get the first one, it's supposed to just prep your body to be ready. The second one is the one that fucks you up, and the third one's the one that fixes it. That's why it's a 3-dose thing now. And you have to get them in the correct time frame. And between 1 and 2 is really open, but 2 and 3 have to be done within basically 48 hours of the time limit, or you got problems. With that behind me, having gotten that first one and dodged the second one, what do you think I'm thinking about getting another vaccine that's only been approved for emergency use? One of my neighbors was a soldier back in '91. He got the anthrax vaccine. He didn't even make it out of Saudi Arabia. He made it like 9 months in Saudi Arabia before they had to medevac him because he literally collapsed. They could not get him to make clear response. And he's just standing around one day, and he'd been feeling bad, and then that day he collapsed, and according to him, he's just making guttural noises. He spent the next 2 years in a military hospital, basically paralyzed, hearing people around him saying every day, yeah, he's going to die any day now. He managed to recover from that enough that he learned to walk again. That took him another year and a half. It gets worse. Hearing everyone around you basically waiting for you to die and trying to make you comfortable in the process, there's a lot to this. He spent 5 years in a psych hospital recovering from that, or in and out of the hospital. I'm not exactly sure, because he talks a lot about going into Medford. That is the last thing we really need, especially with the sort of people who basically put us all into permanent work camps, custodial prison camps, slave labor camps, really, because of this thing. And I'm not the first one to say that. The first one that I heard say that was actually Tim Pool, of all things. It wasn't any of the conservative uh, crowd. It was Tim fucking Pool that said he's afraid of draconian measures, something, something, and he said the word camps. This was December, maybe January of 2020, when he was talking about that, or at least when I saw the video. I remember it's midnight. I'm on duty because I was working security at the time. I watched this video. Oh my God. This can't be real. It was real. Okay. No mandatory vaccinations. Which leads into the next subject, Fauci's threats. All right. I call this Fauci's threats because it is exactly that. It is a threat. His words were that there may very well be another virus. No, he's trying to make us afraid so that we'll all get in line right into the grinder. The threat here is either we get in line or he's going to make sure it happens, or he's going to make sure he doesn't do anything to stop it, more to the point. Dr. Fauci, it's time to go home. Which leads into CUOMO'S Crisis. You remember a minute ago when I was talking about the Japanese internment? Basically, Governor Cuomo test ran the program for them. He made an executive order that anyone over, I think it was the age of 85, was to be placed into a nursing home for their protection. I remember that hearing about this, I think it was April of last year. I'm thinking, well, this is going to be a great thing as long as the virus doesn't get into a facility. But if it gets into a facility, it's just going to explode like a bomb. Well, guess what happened? Exactly what people, and I'm thinking it, and then somebody says it, and it happened exactly that way. I know people are going to say, well, it was an employee who had it and didn't know, or did this or that. I don't give a shit. It could have blown in on the wind for all the fucks I give. It got in. That's it. And there is no way to make sure that it doesn't happen. When 100 people are telling you that X, Y, or Z action is dangerous, don't do it, and then you turn around and do it anyway, what's that called? They put a man in prison for driving into a crowd of about 150, 120, something like that people, killed 5 or 6 people, injured a couple dozen more, because everybody knows you don't drive into a fucking crowd. It's not that complicated. Now, about that example I just gave, driving into the crowd, the man swore up one side, down the other. He lost control of the car. That's an interesting defense. I remember thinking about that at the time. That's an interesting defense. I wonder how that'll play out. Never heard anything else until like 4 years later when the Prius recall hits. Prius? I think it was Prius. Recall hit. Oh, okay. They did not put him in prison because he lost control of the car. They put him in prison because everybody has always said, don't drive into a crowd. You stay on the road. You stay on the rules of the road because you can endanger other people's lives. They didn't specifically say, don't drive into a crowd. They said, stay on the road. They don't have to tell you, don't drive into a crowd. And now here's Cuomo being specifically told, don't drive into the crowd, and he drives into them anyway. Now, if you saw that and thought I was going to talk about his sexual harassment complaints, not really. I'm going to acknowledge they were made. That's about it. I don't know. If they're true, they're not. I don't know. Some of them are true, some of them are not. I don't know. The 10,000 cases of murder, on the other hand, are true. When you are told by your own experts, by the way, this is a bad idea, don't do it, probably a great idea, you not do it. Then there's that stunt about hiding the respirators so that nobody can find them, nobody can use them. Governor Cuomo is going to prison. That's where he belongs. And it is as simple as that. My governor, Sisolak, can't say his name correctly, Nevada's governor, probably is going there for very related reasons. California's governor, I'm not even sure how he's managed to avoid, other than he wasn't as bad as Cuomo, I guess. Michigan's governor, she's really going to prison, not just for endangering people's lives with malice aforethought, but also for damn it, when you tell everybody else to obey a law that you just turned around and broke yourself. That isn't even a law, but anyway, and then endanger people's lives. That stunt about ordering the state troopers to put nails in a parking lot. What were you thinking, lady? That was a direct action that endangered life. I don't even know how those state troopers are not on trial yet. And seriously rolling on her as fast as they can. I was just following orders defense doesn't include acts that are just brazenly morally reprehensible. Cuomo's crisis, once it finally does hit the way it should have months ago is going to spread. And we're looking at about a dozen or so, but just under a dozen governors who are going to be in at least as much trouble, if not more. We're looking at a couple of national leaders who will be in that much trouble. And looking at you, Boris Johnson. What were you thinking? Looking at you, Macron. You're an idiot. All right. Not only are you brazenly indifferent to the results of your actions, but you did what you did thinking nobody would care or nobody would notice. I'm not sure which, and I don't care. And they really do belong on death row. And it kind of is as simple as that. All right. All right. Troll brings up a question. Qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is I, as the duly elected office holder in a place, am doing something that A, is within the legal scope of my duties, and B, endangers lives in the process. It also extends to my employees when I told them to do this. Excuse me. Let's take an interesting example. Forest management. Remember I talked about Chester being on fire at the start of the stream? Right, here I am. I am the head of Bureau of Land Management. I'm not actually elected. I am appointed by elected leaders. Those elected leaders had the qualified immunity that extends to me now. Okay. Lincoln National Park is overgrown. I order my employees to go out and thin it out using fire, using controlled burns. I have the legal authority to do that. Something happens, my fault, their fault. Nobody's fucking fault at all. That fire explodes off into a new direction or explodes out of control, and a city is destroyed in the process. Am I criminally liable for my actions? They're my actions, by the way. Nobody in Congress told me to order this controlled burn. I gave that order. I gave that specific order for that specific forest. I didn't give the specific day. I didn't give the specific time. I didn't give the specific locations. But I told them, clean out that forest, use controlled burns. Am I now going to prison for the homes destroyed, lives lost, the public treasury burned through, and wasted putting out the fire that I ordered set? Probably not. I was acting within the legal scope of my authority. I have the qualified immunity to make command decisions. And this was an unforeseeable result. I turned them, I said, I want that forest cleaned out with controlled burns. I entrusted them to do it correctly. Military equivalent actually does not exist. But here we go. Captain of a destroyer with his qualified immunity that he doesn't actually have, but we'll come back to that later, sees this giant macro battleship is really what it was, a heavy cruiser, right? A cruiser's guns all combined, could weigh as much as a destroyer if it's at the smaller end of the destroyer scale. I, as the captain of this destroyer, give an order. Turn towards that cruiser that outweighs me over 100 to 1 and attack as hard as we can. All around me, my sailors are dying. My ship is being destroyed. Literally, I'm watching it falling apart because we're getting hit with shells that weigh as much as my entire engine, or as much as one of my engines at least. Am I now going to prison for roughly 150, I think it was, counts of murder? No. I made a command decision that I had the authority to make, and we acted on it. For those of you that might be curious, that's based on a true story. Captain Johnson of USS Roberts turned his light destroyer into one of the Japanese cruisers at the Battle of Leyte Gulf. And in so doing, Roberts is gone. She's lying at the bottom of Leyte Gulf now. And she took a lot of her crew with her. But she broke the Japanese plan to retake the Philippines. It wasn't just her, it was one of the other destroyers followed suit quickly after. Roberts is just the famous one because they did it first. He was never held accountable because he didn't do anything wrong. He did exactly what his command authority allowed him to do. Philosophical question, though. I'm sorry, Troll. The question really was, which is never actually qualified. Yes, there is a qualification to it. Captain Johnson's decision to turn into a cruiser that could fire shells as big as his entire ship. I'm sorry, as big as his main diesel engines. The BLM director ordering Lincoln National Park cleaned out. And that is based on a true story, although I'm not sure which one. This is pre 9/11. Those are qualified immunity cases. You're actually doing something that you have the authority to do. Ordering people into de facto prisons because they are 87 years old is not under your authority. You don't have the legal authority to do that. Ordering state troopers to throw nails into a parking lot is not under qualified immunity. Ordering mask mandates after you've already told the people as of XYZ day, we are going to be doing away with the mask mandates, is not qualified immunity. Those are absolute bullshit defenses. Well, I'm an elected official, so I always have qualified immunity. No, you don't. That wouldn't have done Hitler any good either. That's the truth. Hitler was an elected official as well. And if they had gotten him alive, he'd have been lucky if they hung him. It's just as simple as that. Qualified immunity also is the legal term for following orders defense. Just following orders didn't do Goring any good. And it barely did Dornitz any good. He still got 10 years, but at least they weren't going to hang him. And in Dornitz's case, it was absolute bullshit because he didn't do anything that the other side hadn't also done, or reacting to something that specifically the Americans forced him to do. He was really convicted of failing to recover survivors at sea after an American bomber, after Americans bombed one of his submarines that had signaled their position and intentions. We know because the bomber crew used the Germans' own signal and position report to target them. That was qualified immunity, and it didn't do him any good either, did it? Wow. Okay. I'm going a lot faster on this than I thought I would be. Kroger boycotts. Kroger can't win for losing. That's the truth. Um, what was it? 5 years ago now, maybe 6. Boycott Kroger was all over Twitter. I didn't have Twitter yet, so I missed that. Um, but short version is it was an attempt to force Kroger to ban guns, which they semi acquiesced to. They said they don't want any open carry in their stores, which is actually illegal, but move on. But if they don't know, they don't know. And you know what? I've been into Kroger's since then, uh, concealed, which is exactly the thing that moms demand, goes all kinds of ape shit and these hushed tones, loaded concealed guns. Yeah, it's concealed, bitch. What about it? Anyway, a couple of days ago, it started again. Kroger hired somebody to their board of directors. Now, this lady has basically been in government service since I was in junior high school. Very short breaks in between to get better familiar with the corporate world. Okay, all right, fine. And then somebody else would come into office, and all of a sudden she's got a new job. She takes a pay cut to take these government jobs that help steer us into the next generation. But I really want to hit on one. Oh, did I? Oh, damn, I did. Okay. Well, it is what it is. One of the jobs that she took, which she probably actually took a pay hit, but okay. The United Way got into a huge scandal about how money was being um, handled in the organization. Okay, all right. Um, this was a huge scandal because it was a crime. She turned that around. She put the company back on the right, standing at a level that well, I'm very surprised that Wounded Warrior didn't reach out and try to get her when their scandal hit twice in a row. That's it for coffee. Um, She's actually done the job that people needed done. Because exclusively because she was the Secretary of Transportation under Trump, the left is calling once again for a boycott of Kroger. It really is this simple, people. They'll never be satisfied. Leftists will never, ever be satisfied no matter how much you give them. As simple as don't bend a knee, right? Kroger bent the knee to mom's demand back in 2015, 14, somewhere around there. In 2014 or 15, Kroger bent the knee once, and now they will forever be bending the knee. And it will never be enough. And that's exactly the way they operate. And I can tell you this because I used to be there myself. Although, even being there, I was always kind of like, wait a second, what? That doesn't sound right. But I would keep my mouth shut because, well, a greater good has to be accomplished. Looking back, I realize how stupid that thinking was. And you can say it. It was just idiotic. Now, I walked away from that before Mom's Demand was a thing. But watching Mom's Demand going after Kroger like they did, I was like, ooh, that was my future. I'm so glad I avoided it. This time around, I hope Kroger does stand up and say, you know what? We can never win with you people. We're going to do what we're going to do, and you can boycott us. We'll see what happens. They got a lot of good press in progressive circles for having gone with the gun ban, and that's about it. And now it's coming back to bite them. The same people who say we're going to boycott Kroger over hiring this what Miss Cheng, Mrs. Cheng. But anyway, in 6 months they'll be back anyway. That's the truth. They're going to come back anyway, and they're going to sneak in the front door. Well, they're going to walk in the front door and pretend like nothing happened. Or they're going to come bursting in the front door when they got what they wanted and force the company to do something else that they demanded. As simple as that. Never, ever bend the knee to a leftist. All right. Oh, damn it. Okay. Joel could wax philosophical about police tactics, revenue generation, and home entry methods for a long time, and don't get him started on civil asset forfeiture. It's legal highway robbery. It's not legal highway robbery. It's just robbery. Highway has to be on a road. I'm sorry, troll. You know I'm going to spurg out like that. Actually, there's some legitimacy to civil asset forfeiture, but this process has been abused to the point where even people that support it, like me, start to say, wait a second, you what? It was one thing when it was being used with Al Capone, whose entire empire was criminal to the core. Even his import export business was a criminal enterprise. Yeah, he was importing and exporting furniture and dresses and whatever, but he was also importing and exporting booze as part of the company. The same trucks that were bringing in um, Chifferos from Canada or France were also bringing in crates, huge crates full of whiskey and wine and beer. Right? Everything about his business ended up becoming nothing but push the criminal trade, even though the import export business was supposed to be the front company for the money. That's when you got to stop and ask yourself, wait a second, how much am I into just doing this because I can? How much of it is just for the money? How much of this is actually running a business? Right? You want to run a business, you don't have your accountants paying your hitman. Right? Don't be stupid. Um, at some point, you've got to say that this is ridiculous. Not talking about Al Capone here. I'm actually talking about government asset forfeiture laws. If there is still a state that has state laws banning medicinal marijuana, I invite you to mention it in the chat or in comments afterwards. I'm not aware of it. And I'm going to tell you all the truth. I lived in California when they passed the medicinal marijuana law. It was a sham. It had nothing to do with medicine. It had everything to do with an end run around the marijuana laws. That's the truth. I don't care if you like it or not. I gotta put it the way it is. And I'm in a bar in Sacramento. It's Streets of London in Sacramento. They have this back porch area. Back porch area has a back gate. So as normal practice, when it is truly in bar mode, then a bouncer back there. Big guy. I mean, this is somebody I had to kind of crane my head to look him in the eyes. Damn, that boy was big. Tall. He sits there, and his only real job is to make sure nobody comes in the back gate and nobody gets into a fight back there. Okay. That's his real job. I'm sitting there. I can see him. I used to know his name. It's D something. I've forgotten now. Dustin. Let's just call him Dustin for a moment. He's sitting back there. I'm sitting up near the building. I see this guy stand up. Shit, you not. Imagine the table's right about here. He stands up. He says, I got my card. Read it and weep, bitch. He says this like 3 or 4 times. All right. Bear in mind, Dustin's job. Watch out for fights. Make sure nobody comes in that back gate. Fifth general order is remain at your post until duly relieved. This guy with the medicinal marijuana card was becoming such an obnoxion, such a problem. Dustin left that back gate, came over and told the man it was time to leave. The man was apparently sober enough to understand at some point you've outstayed your welcome. He left quietly, and as far as I know, he never came back. This particular bar did have enough bouncers on duty when they were at capacity that they needed to keep radios. So Dustin called the front and told them, hey, there's a guy coming out. He's been 86 for the night. Or something. I remember I saw him talking on. I saw they had wrist mics. That's all I really know is I saw him talking, and then he goes back to the back gate. And the other guy never came back that night. So yes, they let each other know. Oh yeah, by the way, bars talk to each other. The closer they are, the faster they hear about it. So if this guy went to another bar, 2 or 3 blocks down, they might have 86'd him too, or even got there. They all have security cameras, and they can watch each other. That's how they really know. That guy just got 86'd. Okay, he's not coming in here tonight. You're welcome to try it if you want. Get yourself thrown out of a bar. Try going through the doors down and see what happens. Anyway, this attempt at the end run, I lost my point. Okay, guys, I'll come back to it as soon as I pick it back up again. Meantime, I'm going to move on to the next subject. All right, the 6th January investigations. For those of you who have a little bit better knowledge of history, Operation Valkyrie was the assassination attempt, the last assassination attempt on Hitler. The plan was to leave a bomb in the bunker. It'll blow up, it'll take him. And then the people behind it would shut down key parts of the German government that would have allowed for an investigation. They'd then take over the administration of the state for the late chancellor. And I'm not entirely sure, but I think their plan was to try to surrender to Britain. Some of these people really didn't like Americans, but they really, really hated the Russians. The Brits were all that was left. That plan didn't go off quite the way it was supposed to. In the wake of the Operation Valkyrie, basically people were being rounded up because they knew somebody who knew one of the plotters, one of the provable plotters. There was a few that were legitimately guilty. There were a whole lot that were not even remotely connected. And of all of the weird shit, Germany's most capable general at the time, Erwin Rommel, got caught up in this conspiracy because, I kid you not, he had talked to not von Stauffenberg and not even not Ribbentrop, but one of his deputies. Anyway, the 3 or 4 people who were at the top of the operation, but like somebody 3 or 4 down, right? an aide to Stauffenberg or whoever the hell it was. And that aide said, well, yeah, I talked to General Rommel and I was feeling him out to see where he would stand. And he conceded that he would be willing to follow whoever was legitimately in charge of the country. That's it. That's all of his involvement in the assassination. Hitler ordered him to commit suicide or face trial. If he had faced trial, his family would have also been held accountable. So, of course, Rommel did the thing he needed to do to protect his wife and children. That's it. What's going on with this investigation makes that show trial look like a very, very staid, plaid, um, serious affair. There are people who are still being held, having been charged with nothing at all, or at least they're not aware of. Um, to some of them are actually really legitimately violent crimes, but more than half are being held on misdemeanor charges and nothing more. At least Rommel actually talked to somebody who was involved. It's as simple as that. On top of that, they're not putting actual witnesses on the stand. The police who were involved, let's just assume that they were actually there that day. Yes, I just said that. They're seeing one little piece of this picture, and all of a sudden, they're experts on the whole events of the day. It gets worse. Can you believe this? It gets worse. These are the same people who brazen the uh, January 6th investigation panel is being led by the exact same people who provably forged evidence, fabricated evidence during the impeachment trial related to what happened. Provably forged evidence. Now what? The same people who forged evidence are now putting witnesses to testify whose association with the events are at times dubious and are saying exactly what the investigators want to hear. That sounds familiar. Um, there can be no better evidence of just how ridiculous this thing has become than the fact of the trial and the direction that it's going. Anybody who was even modestly willing to test the narrative were not allowed to be there. That sounds familiar too. Oh, yeah, it had happened 6 months earlier during the previous impeachment when the Republicans literally forced a door open into the secret hearing that the Democrats turned around and accused the Republicans of crashing the meeting. It's as simple as that. Troll, I saw that. Congratulations to your cousin. I can tell you, I subbed under my personal name, and Fixed Bayonets also subbed. I talked to Angel, but it's Fixed Bayonets' account. So, and happy to have helped. This is also tied to another subject, and this is the greatest irony. This irony is absolutely delicious. It's the reason why I put these side by side. The witnesses for the January 6th events so far have all been the cops who were supposedly there. The same people who are pushing the January 6th investigations that aren't are also the people pushing the defund the police. They want cops across the country. They don't trust cops anywhere in the country, but all of a sudden they trust these guys. Seems legit. I'm a history student. Remember, my degree is in history. Yeah. Funny thing about the rise of Hitler. One of the things he did for the public good, he took the funding away from the local authorities for the law enforcement and put it to the federal authorities. So basically, he federalized the cops across the country. They now answered to him directly. But let's get on with the real complaint. And I'm sorry, guys, I can't really give you this screenshot. God damn it. I'm going to have to come back to this in a second because I didn't realize that it was a video. Yeah, skip ad. Son of a bitch. No, skip ad at this point. All I really wanted to do was, yeah. Hey, guess what? Fox News's skip ad function doesn't work. What I had was a picture. So I can't do anything with that now. Sorry, guys. You'll just have to trust me here. Oh. Joel just made a pretty pointed accusation. I wish I could say he was lying. I can say that I can't prove his claim. But then again, I can't prove a lot of things that I know to be true. All right. So, about that defund the police campaign, turns out that a whole lot of money is coming from sources that I've discussed in the past, like BLM, like Antifa umbrella groups, like Iranian puppets. I know nobody believes me, but Iran is the one just paying BLM's bills, that is paying Antifa's bills. They are the primary or the largest source of DNC funding. Oh, and to be perfectly blunt, they are doing it with money that they raise from breaking laws that we take for granted, right? All of this money seems to be coming from the same people and the same sources. Makes you wonder who's behind it or why. One of the best ways of prepping a nation for invasion is to break down their social order. The law, not so much, because people could still know the law and the courts could still follow the law. But if the courts aren't getting the people who've done these horrible, awful, evil things, they can't try them. Best way to break down a society is to break down their law enforcement. That is actually the first line. That's the first line before the anarchy hits. Think about Seattle last summer. What happened? The police lost control of downtown Seattle, and it took, 4 months to get those people out of there? I'm just saying. And during that time, there were rapes, there were murders, there was drugs, left, right, and indifferent. There were brazen robberies that were called disassociation. You give money to the the occupiers, so they can buy bread and oranges and guns. That's the way it really works. It has always been that way. The best way to prepare a country for invasion is break down their social order. The best way to break down the social order, defund the police. It worked in Rome. It worked in Germany. It has worked 3 times each in Britain and France. It worked in Russia. Now, Russia, a little bit different a story, and some of the others as well. Russia stopped paying their cops. Not anything to do with outside influence. They did that to themselves. They did that to themselves twice. Once under the Tsar and once under the communists. KGB agents were literally, was it KGB or GRU? Actually, I'm not sure which it was. Were literally selling photocopies of whole reams of documents for as little as $100 to a CBS. I think it was a CBS news crew. And it was all on camera. And the Russian knew that they were there and just didn't care. It's American news. I don't give a shit. They did blur out his face, but that's how we actually know the real history behind the AK-47. Russians sold those documents for as little as, in that case, probably $5. The whole ream. The Russian government paid for it in the form of paying for the paper. Whoever is funding the defund the police, that's who's trying to destabilize the society. In Soviet America, facts find you. And actually, no, in Argentina, the police are not being defunded. It's actually the economic collapse. The thing about this is, a country can survive an economic collapse. Even a total and complete economic collapse can be survived if you keep those cops on the beat. You can keep those cops on the beat. They can hold the line and put things back together. That's what happened in Rome. One or two would-be petty dictators would hold that line for their own homes, usually, or villas or whatever. Watch the rest of the city burn, and now they have the only army that can go in and become the police. Troll says Colombia was a little different. Actually, there's a little bit more complicated than that even, but yeah, fair enough. Is there, please? Troll says, I assume he's referring to Colombia still. 6 years ago, they reduced their police to a constabulary of a few guys per 10,000 people. Constables actually have no legal authority, right? Like, they do, but their legal authority is basically their own neighborhood. They break up domestic violence calls. They occasionally write parking tickets, serve papers, that sort of thing. They do the grunt work that you don't really need somebody making $25 an hour to do, or you can't pay somebody $25 an hour to stand there all day and get ready for. That's why they go break up the DV calls. And then they turn around and they're calling for the cops. All they do is break the fight up long enough for the cop to get there. Social justice with a uniform and a billy club is a constable. No, well, social services with a uniform and a billy club is a constable. That's a bit hyperbolic. Not that hyperbolic, though. Okay. A simple fact of the matter, though, is the Defund the Police movement is a preparation for invasion to the United States, and there it is. They're trying to break down the social order to pave the way. And the idea here is actually a little more complicated. This goes back to some real old school politics. Break down the social order, wait for the people to turn against each other. That opens the door. Because one faction or another is going to turn to an outside faction and say, please help us. We need guns, we need money, we need food, we need medicine, we need this, we need that, we need everything. That faction will be beholden to whoever supports them. Do not fuck with Iran and their money. They do not play games here. For those of you that saw the movie 300, that whole series of events was a result of somebody owing Iran a whole lot of money. Now, exactly how these events went down, I'm not entirely sure. Right? Somebody owed Persia money, and a lot of money from their civil war. Persians were coming to collect that money. Collecting money they were owed. Leonidas and his personal bodyguards, really, these were the equivalent of his secret service, said, yeah, we know somebody owes them money, but we're not going to allow them to collect on it. They marched down to the choke point that is Thermopylae and tried to hold that line. They knew they couldn't. They knew they were dead men marching, dead men walking. Their only plan was to hold that line long enough for the Persians to land and start to come ashore, and then they could raise the alarm to everybody. See, we told you so. They're coming. They're here now. And he actually had to do it under cover of being a hunting expedition, if that isn't ridiculous enough for 100 people. Nobody actually believed him. They all knew he was going down to get ready for this crazy Persian invasion that he kept talking about, wouldn't shut up about. And then it happened. Oh, Persians really are landing? They really are invading? Oh, well, I guess we better go deal with this. Then everybody had to spend a couple days sobering up before they could march off to war. All right. I'm going to see if Troll's comments are right about Mexico on the border. No one is looking at the number of Asian immigrants coming through Canada. It's significant. Okay, so that ties to 9017. Resembling an invasion on purpose occurs, will come across our northern border first. Troll thinks that we're going to be invaded through Canada. I still think it'll come up through Mexico. The routes are better established. The support infrastructure is better established. It really is as simple as that's the door I see that's already open. He has an interesting point though, and I can't dispute it. Could they come down through Canada? Some of them actually already have. Now this was back before 9/11, so take it with a grain of salt. It's a little bit dated information, but yeah, that's a possibility too. Okay. Now, by the way, when a faction finally reaches out to Iran and says, "Hey, help us! We need money. We need drugs. We need campers. We need prostitutes. Whatever it is." Yeah. What was I about to say? Never mind. Not that important, obviously. All right. On a kind of related topic, the Taliban marches on. I believed it was really, really stupid of President Trump to declare that we were going to leave Afghanistan at all. We never left Germany. All right. We never left Korea. We never left Japan. Why are we now suddenly declaring that we're leaving Afghanistan? Why are we suddenly declaring that we're leaving Iraq? Why are we suddenly declaring that we are leaving Vietnam? Tell me. Give me an answer. Why is it every country we say we're leaving suddenly turns into a major invasion within about a year? Our countries we never say we're leaving not only still haven't been invaded, but in most cases have gone the exact opposite route. Okay, all right. So I'm really talking about Germany, East and West Germany here. I remember the night the Berlin Wall fell and watching people up there pounding away at it and thinking, there's no way Russia's going to stand for that. And then they stood for it. I was also like 13 at the time, 14 maybe. Okay, I was wrong. Now, rather than the organized withdrawal that Donnie apparently wanted, Biden just said, "Yep, we quit. We're out of there." And file this under bizarre but true. Babylon B, 8 years ago, something like that, actually had a story about U.S. sneaks out of Iran in the middle of the night, and then it actually happened. One day we're at Bagram, and the next day we're gone. It's as simple as the moment we withdrew from Afghanistan, the Taliban knew clear road, and they will massacre anybody they need to do to get there. Two related stories I found. No momento, people. All right. Taliban is taking key cities in response to bombing. Bullshit. They were going to invade those cities anyway. And once they have control of those cities, like ISIS, that's their buddies, they're going to massacre. I mean massacre anybody that even in any way opposed them. And they might massacre more just to make an example. They've also taken border posts, draining a key revenue resource. That's just part and parcel. First of all, it takes the money away from the legitimate Afghan government, puts it in their pockets. So that's double good for them. -1 to you and +1 to me is +2 to me. And second of all, it exerts the authority. Hey, I took this thing from my enemies. I'm more powerful. Great intimidation tactic. And that's all it really is. Just intimidate the people, make them kowtow, just like they did back in 91. Hey, DJ. Hey, DM. Danger Mouse himself. All right. Sorry, I stole that from Ghost. Okay, good. I'm caught up with who's here. DM's Foss says, if they come up from Mexico, they get tacos. Invade from Canada, you get jean jackets. I don't know. That's just that's an interesting choice. You can live without a jean jacket. You gotta have food, right? DJ asks, the Shifts book or poutine? Ooh, poutine. That kind of beats tacos, according to everybody who's ever tried poutine, which would not include me. So yeah, that's a good question. The MFOS asks, is there anything legitimate in Afghanistan? Well, according to the UN, yeah, the Afghan government was legitimately installed. What do you want me to say, bud? What can I do? Okay, I'm caught up on that. Joe's decision. Well, Donnie's decision to pull out of Afghanistan was bad to begin with. Joe's decision to just yank us out was absolutely ridiculous. All it did was clear the road and pave it for them to retake control of that country. And to be perfectly blunt, the Taliban was friends with Iran. Who do you think's been paying their bills for the last 10 years? Pakistan? Huh? China? No. If Iran had wanted the Taliban out, they'd have been gone right from day one. It's as simple as that. It might be to the point where we have to let the Taliban take over again, wait for them to fuck up, and go back. And this time, none of these half measures. Just hunt them down and kill them all. All right. We're at an hour and 15 minutes now. Want to recap. Biden's eviction orders demonstrate his absolute flagrant disregard for court orders or court decisions. He will do whatever the hell he wants. He doesn't care if it's legal. He will just act. Mandatory vaccinations with a experimental drug. It's one thing if we're talking about something that's been around for 150 years and proven to actually be safe and effective. This hasn't even been around 10 years and is proven to be unsafe. I said it. It's been proven. It's not been proven effective, and it was a cancer drug that they tried to modify. Last time that happened was when Massengill created elixir sulfide. No, elixir sulfa. Look how that turned out. On the subject of safe and effective, by the way, polio vaccine was proven safe and effective too. Oh yeah, that. Related to that is Fauci telegraphing to all of us that he's going to let another bare minimum. He's going to let another virus break loose. Well, he already did once, twice rather. Why should we not believe his new threat? Andrew Cuomo is going to prison for engineering a massacre. Kroger is being ordered to bend the knee again, and I hope they stand up to it this time. January 6th investigations are a show trial that would have made Adolf Hitler blanch at the brazenness. These are people that have been proven to have fabricated evidence once. Why should we believe they're not going to do it again? Defund the police movement is actually being paid for at the base of it by Iran. Taliban is regaining control of Afghanistan. They're going to have it in about 6 months. I think you should stick with your current name there, Troll. At least then I'd recognize you. And now is the part where I plead to you, my viewers, for help. And this time, it's actually going to go somewhere, sort of. All right. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know that there's a clause under Dataslav that is really, really strong protection for businesses. As long as they're doing the right things, they are almost totally protected. It would be very difficult to go after Ruger or W. Smith and Sons of Redditch, England, who make sailing needles, because their product was used to commit a crime. As long as they're making their product correctly and selling it appropriately, they're protected. I am asking that you guys reach out to any, especially gun-related businesses that you know of, and highlight that section. This is like the FOPA on steroids. it would be of insurmountable assistance. If you could help me by pointing this out to them and asking them to support this concept, because it will protect them from civil harassment. Right now, who is it? Mom's Demand is going after somebody, and I forgot who this time. Anyway, they're going after somebody else now. It would put the stop on that completely. And it's really as simple as they're being compared to the tobacco industries in the 80s. Well, no, the tobacco industry was doing something they knew was dangerous with a brazen indifference, right? They were targeting very specifically people. They knew that their product was killing their customers. They didn't care. This is totally different. Yes, the same gun that I have on my hip right now could be used to go rob a liquor store and kill the cashier, or it could be used to stop the cashier. And either way, it's not going to hurt me very much at all. Completely different scenarios. I could also take a drag off my cigarette, blow it in your face all day, every day, and you will die of lung cancer. I bought the cigarettes. I use the cigarettes. How is this R.J. Reynolds' fault? Well, it wouldn't be. I'm the one that did the thing. Sooner or later, my smoking is going to affect my health. I know this. I've known this since I was 8 or so. I made the decision to affect my health myself. Okay. You know, Foss is right. Yeeting Yeti is shorter and catchy. And don't you know, troll, cultural appropriation is a form of racism. Okay. Well, according to the live timer, we got 8 minutes. So please ask questions. And oh, aside to businesses, I have said that I will not support specific gun companies. I made an exception to the rule once, and it turned out to be a complete disaster when, ironically enough, they threatened to sue me because Fix told the truth. Okay. But I've been reached out to a couple of times by relatively small gun stores, and I've really been giving this some thought. Even over Fix's objections, which were, she pointed out the problems and then said she supports the idea. Anyway, I am really considering helping some of the smaller gun stores, and I do mean local. And flag on the play, there's 2 that I've already decided I am going to help at some level. Both of them are involved in specific components of making firearms legal in their relative states. One is California and the other is Washington. I just have to be able to take the time to travel up to Washington and California. California trip I don't have as much excuse for it. I could do that in a weekend, and I do it in a weekend about once a month. Washington trip, I do have a little bit more of an excuse. I would actually have to go. I'd have to leave Friday night and come back Monday morning to make to do it without killing myself. I hope the Washington outfit understands why this is taking so long. Um, they also have specific thing that makes X, Y, or Z firearm legal in their state now. Notice I didn't use the C word. I didn't use the bad C word. Makes the firearm state compliant. I have the kit to make my AR-15 California compliant. I don't have the kit to make my AR-15 Washington compliant. And I'm going to pick one up while I'm there. It's an unfortunate fact that they've had to do this ridiculous bullshit in order to make their firearms compliant when it actually would make the California gun, California compliant ARs, actually illegal in 2 other states because the magazine cannot be removed. Oh, okay. Yes, they don't have a culture. It's all stolen. Um. So anyway, if you know of a place that could use a little bit of love, email me, mention it in the comments, whatever. Um, I really do want to make that Washington trip. I have multiple reasons to make that Washington trip. The California trip, I could do that by video if I really wanted to. I'd rather just go into the store and do it there. But especially since I go back to Reading about once a month anyway. All right. We got about 5 minutes left, so ask a question and I will answer to the best of my ability. Squatch. Um, okay. On a related note, sooner or later, I'm going to be unavailable for one Thursday live stream. I'm going to be taking a little trip to Colorado on business only nominally related. There might be a late week live stream or maybe an early week live stream that week. Simple as this. I won't be available on Thursday per se. Might have to do it a couple days later or a couple days early. Yeah, I'm sorry guys. It is what it is. It is it is what it is. I'm going to have to take time off of work, and I had just taken time off of work when this subject came up, so I'm kind of in a hole. Arson Johansson. That's a new name. Good luck on your Colorado trip. Well, part of it will go well. Part of it will not go well for me. I'm okay with that. And it is what it is. Sometimes you've got to take a little bit of pain in this life, and that'll be the first half of the Colorado trip. Taking a whole lot of pain. Oh well. 5 minutes. Come on, guys, give me a question that I can answer. Make the most of it, though. Thank you. I plan to. That's a new name. Um, what do I plan to gain from the Colorado trip? A certain individual decided to shoot his mouth off with me. Oh, okay, you're going to go there with me? Fine. I'll go there too. And then I'm going to make you eat your words. Well, in there, I'm also hoping to, under the subject of helping the small businesses, maybe make a side trip to a place that, well, it's a particular gun store, and the owner of the store seems to me like he wants to be a good guy. He tries really hard to do the right thing, so hopefully giving him a little bit of love as I'm passing through. Oh, oh, excuse me, guys. I've been dealing with some belly issues all week. Okay, still what it says. Good. All right. Marson says, excellent. Perhaps you can see how his shop is doing. Last I heard, actually, he was doing pretty good. He's not exclusively a gun store, so it's easier to pick up slack when gun sales are down if you have fishing sales or whatever. And um, yeah, so it's easier to bounce back from one downturn if you have something else to turn to. He does, and good for him. Um, no, I'm not going to see a doctor. I'm going to take some Beano and get over it. Um, uh, from a Pfizer discussion. Okay, I think I'm picking up what you're dropping there. What kind of fish are in Colorado? I don't know. I don't fish. Hate fishing. I love having the peace and quiet of fishing. Well, if you ever see me out fishing, there's no hook on it, just a weight. It's out there to give me an excuse to be out in the peace and quiet. And that's it. Yes, the act of fishing is more valuable than catching because I don't like fish. I have not liked fish since I was 8 years old. Since I turned 8, I've only had one fish based meal that wasn't disgusting, and that was very, very well smoked salmon while I was in Oregon. It's nice sitting on the bank all day long and just sitting there fishing. It just sucks to catch anything. I hate that part. All right, guys, we just hit 1000 my time. So, Marzen, yeah, I think I remember now. So, hit me back. I want to talk to you about related subjects. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here because I can hear that they're getting ready to start the working on the grow. I can hear the forklift warming up. So, never forget that Iran created the coronavirus and framed China. Joe is a criminal. It's outright criminal who's bordering on a tyrant. Give him 2 more months, and he will be there. Anybody that supports him is just as willing to break the law as he is. Anybody who's benefiting from his decisions is even more willing to break the law than he is. And yeah, it's kind of closing time, guys. I will hopefully see you all next week. In the meantime, keep calm and mandatory carry on.